Salutations, everybody. This is Igbar Von Squid making a splash, and today I'm coming at you with my yays and nays of Gavel. It's sort of my Gavel review. It's a very big update. There's a whole lot to talk about. There was a whole lot of hype coming for it. Everyone was just expecting it, and it came out pretty fantastic. I think that it was personally worth the wait. The 2 years just about that it took. I do like it a whole lot, but there are some things that I have to say are just not to my liking. It's not that these things are bad, but it's just that there are some things that I personally don't like just because of who I am and the games I've previously played and all that sort of thing. So we're gonna be going over that, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I did actually get a new mic for Christmas, so I should hopefully sound a lot clearer. This has a few different modes that I have to experiment around with. I think this one is sort of what my old microphone had, and it just sort of probably records the best for what I'm looking for. The issue with this one is that it actually blocks part of this screen, whereas the other one blocked my secondary monitor. So I do have to have it in front of the screen pretty much the whole time. It's a little tall. So first I want to talk about the new item, element, and skill point system. I have to say that I actually really like what they did here, because it's balanced. They're all connected to each other. They all matter. It's not like last time where there was one sort of thing that you should do. It's more set up towards how you want to do it. So it's, like you plan it out kind of from the beginning, how you want to play it out, and then you build up from there as you go along. But that's actually one of the problems that I personally have with it, is that you're given too many stats now to worry about. Like last time in the previous version, it wasn't like that. It was sort of, there were a few things you worried about, and then some stuff were just like nice. Like, oh, okay, this comes with spell damage. I don't really care for spell damage. I'd rather have life steal or mana steal or even mana regen. But spell upgrade is pretty nice. Except the issue now is that there are negative stats. So now trying to balance out items like, oh, I'd rather have this item versus this item, you have to look at all these stats and see what does what and what makes you immune to like aqua damage. It's actually very complicated and kind of hard to wrap your head around. And I think going into the future, people are going to start making item guides like, oh, this item's good, this item's not so good. Maybe try and compare it. And but for now, I really wouldn't try to bother with I wouldn't try to bother too much worrying about the other stats until you're like at the end game, because it isn't until the end game that that you want to feel like an invincible beast monster that can slay anything. I mean, it'd be nice at a lower level, but you really shouldn't try to do it from the get-go. You're gonna strain your brain too much, so you should save all the math and calculating until like near the end. So up until that point, I think the only identifications you should worry about are, the older ones that you had before the update, which is how much health it'll give you, its life steal, its mana steal. Health regen doesn't really matter at all anymore, because it's just you're just gonna want to chug down potions all the time. There's no point in really bothering trying to go for health regen, and XP boost, because an XP boost is always good. The mana steal, mana regenerates a whole lot slower than it used to, and it also drains about just as quickly. So we actually during the beta, we tried to convince Salted to change that, but he was very steadfast in keeping mana nerfed. So I mean, in the long run, I think that might be the better option, to make mana sort of a lot harder. But for now, it's just sort of annoying and in the way. It doesn't really make much sense for it to be like that, but I think it plays more into how going for an aqua build, a water build, intelligence, high intelligence. I think it's so that type of build is actually like useful. Otherwise, I don't think it would really be nearly as important as it is. That may have been the idea. And maybe I should have done this topic last, but one of my big problems with this update is expectations. What did I expect coming out of this update? What did I look for? What did I want? And what did everyone want? And what were we told? And the biggest thing is that some things we were told and just they didn't really turn out how things expected, which makes sense, because it's not like Gavel was made by one person. It was made by a whole bunch of people. They all have different ideas on how they should do things. And so some things just get lost along the way. And two of those things was that Grian had said on multiple occasions, I'm not sure if I can quote it, because it was just all sorts of random instances. But his major point was that Gavel is not not a province of corruption, it's a province of light. And instead of a physical corruption plaguing the land, it's more of a corruption of mind. So the villagers are supposed to be greedy, that's who they are, they like money, that's what's going on. Except that's not really true at all, because there is corruption in Gavel, it's called the decay. Decay and corruption are basically the same thing. I mean, in certain cases, they're synonyms of each other and can be used interchangeably. So the whole concept of the decay is just corruption again. It comes from a different source. It's not the same type of corruption, but the theme that it carries with it is very much still the same. And in fact, if you run from Sinfras to Lexdale, you'll probably come across a corrupted orc or two. It's even called, literally, corrupted orc. It's not, decayed orc or anything. It's legitimately corrupted. So I'm not really sure where the whole idea that, there's no corruption in Gavel came from, because it's still there. I don't really know what the whole point of that was to tell us this. And same thing with the greed. There are very, very few mentions of villagers being greedy in the entire place. Maybe merchants have unfair prices, but in terms of quests, you don't really get ripped off at all. I mean, there are a few villagers that, want money. You need to give them money in order to convince them of something, but that's just because they, as a person, are corrupt. It has nothing to do with their race, their gender, or anything like that. They are legitimately just a greedy person. And the only quest that really even mentions the concept of greed is Aldori Valley, Part 1 and Part 2. And there's no villagers in that quest at all. So if anything, it's the elves that are being racist. Like, oh yeah, villagers, they're really corrupt. Yeah, those villagers. No, you don't want to mess with those villagers, man. Like, man, you should stick with us in Aldori. Like, we're cool. We're really cool, Yeah, don't mess with those villagers. It didn't make much sense to me that this was the stuff we were told, and it didn't really turn out like that. But I think the idea, what Green was trying to say instead, was that there aren't corrupted mobs. Like, because all in Wynn, it's all undead monsters and corrupted monsters and all that stuff. When in Gavel, it's more mythical creatures like centaurs and harpies and mermaids and all that crazy stuff. So I think that's what he was trying to say, but it came across more as, oh no, there is no corruption, it's something else completely. So, didn't really, was a little disappointed in it. Could have been executed a little better, but that's in hindsight. It's a little too late to change it, but maybe going into the future, there could be more quests that play on the concept of greed, and, just make less quests about the decay and any sort of things along those lines. Now, in terms of quests themselves, I really like them. They're, like, really, really good compared to Wynn quests. The big thing that Gavel quests have compared to Wynn quests is that in Wynn, there's a whole lot of hand-holding going on. Like, you're like, okay, I need you to go talk to this guy. He's at these coordinates. Just go talk to him. He's going to point you towards some other NPC. That NPC is going to be at these coordinates, too. And, you're probably going to need to grind these monsters just real quick. Like, yeah, it's, again, hand-holding going on. It's not really fun. A lot of the quests just aren't memorable because they're all just talk to this NPC, kill this thing, go back, talk to me, get some money, get your reward, and get out of here. Where in Gavel, it's more, you need to go talk to this guy, he's in this general direction, or you need to go to this place, it's in this general direction. You kind of, just by not giving you the coordinates, and instead pointing you in a direction, actually changes the whole feel of it, because you yourself have to figure things out, even if it's something very minor, like where you need to go. And then, in other quests, like mystery quests, that is just all has to be done by yourself. In a lot of cases, the quest book doesn't even update until you're already at the end of the quest. So, it's really cool how it's done like that. And prompts to the whole team for, making quests of that standard. My only issue is Eye of the Storm as a quest. It's a good quest, don't get me wrong. Eye of the Storm is a good quest. As a quest, it is good, but as a Gavel quest, it doesn't make any sense. It's not really a Gavel quest, because again, the concept of Gavel is less corruption, less demons, less undead, and more mythical creatures and magic and all that sort of stuff. So why is Eye of the Storm in Gavel? Because it deals with demons and undead and corruption and all that stuff. It didn't make any sense for it to be in Gavel at all. And the other thing is, it's not a very fun or memorable quest. It's a whole lot of dialogue reading. There's some like fetch and grind in part of it, and then just a boss that sucks. It's lame. Honestly, it's very lame and boring, and just not. It doesn't fit the theme of Gavel. We've already explored the themes in Wynn, so why is it in Gavel? Personally, it doesn't make any sense for Eye of the Storm to be a quest in Gavel. Maybe if it were in Wynn, I would have a different opinion of it, but I feel like the idea was that it was going to be one of those epic quests, like Temple of Legends, but instead it turned out to just be generic and boring and not memorable at all. I don't know, maybe it's my expectations of the quest, but I don't know, it doesn't fit for me. That's my personal thought. So, in total though, the whole update, very good, very awesome. I love what has been done and the direction the game is going in. I'd definitely like to see more, and I'm interested in what the future of the game is going to have. It's just, I had some very, very minor issues with it, and all of that. So just one quick little thing, I almost forgot to mention it, is that a lot of the Gavel quests end in bosses that just don't make sense. And that is probably the biggest issue that I can't believe I almost forgot, and had to stick it on the end here, is that there's I feel like it's somewhat lazy, because a lot of quests, again, they end in a boss fight for no real reason. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense, sometimes it's built up from the beginning that there's going to be a boss, but, half the time, you don't expect a boss, and you're just thrown a boss anyway. And that's actually what I was trying to prevent when I made that concept of a boss fight, is that, Wynncraft, please stop throwing bosses in my face and making them fight them, only for it to just be a generic mob that has a whole lot of health and one spell. It didn't make any sense, and I've only seen one boss in the entire game so far that didn't do that, where it wasn't just something with a lot of health, it actually had multiple attacks, and there was a unique way of killing it if you could figure it out. And that one boss, you'll probably know it when you see it, is the only good boss in the entire game right now, because all other bosses so far that I have encountered are just lame mobs with all sorts of health. And I'd say the quest that does this the worst, the absolute worst, is Memory Paranoia, because you go through the whole quest, you have your popcorn. I think I pronounced that strangely. You have your popcorn out, you have your soda out, you're just kind of like sitting back, kicking back, doing this quest. You're just watching. It's the whole Memory Paranoia quest. It's just like watching a movie, and then at the end, there's just a boss there. And it's like you're already balls deep in your popcorn. You got up to get a drink. To refill your drink. Why just throw a boss at the end? It didn't make any sense. It felt completely out of place, very lazy, and I have no idea why it was put there. It's not even a good boss. It's not fun. The room it's in isn't even good for a boss fight. It's just there. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's insulting. And that's why I can't like Memory Paranoia, because it throws that boss at the end. No reason for it to be there. There's a million and one things you could have done instead. Like maybe you find the remains of Mr. Caratat. I might be saying that wrong. I'm not really good at remembering names. There's so many ways you could have done it, and instead you just threw a boss. And might I add, it's an undead boss, which, again, as I said above, well, not above, I'm kind of reading off a script a bit here, but as I said earlier, why, you said there weren't going to be undead stuff in Gavel and Corruption, but instead it's there. It just doesn't make any sense. But at the end of the day, I have to say that the Gavel update, absolutely stellar. I enjoy most of it except for my small little issues with it. And as per agreement, in order to get into the beta test, I have to give Gavel a 14 out of 2. Best update so far. Would wait another 2 years for a big update like this. And that's about it. I still don't have a worthwhile intro phrase. I asked for suggestions a couple times. No one ever suggested anything because being creative is hard. So I'm just gonna end it. No real reason. In fact, let's just end it mid